guys, and welcome to another Writing Wednesday where today's topic is all about outlining and plotting. Today, I want to dig into outlining and the nitty-gritty on how to construct a proper outline and actually create a plot that's worth reading. This is something I didn't know how to do until I actually got published and I worked on my second novel. This is how I constructed my second novel, and I learned so much from it. But once kind of you get published, you tend to take things a little bit more seriously, and I wanted to have a plot or an outline behind the book prior to starting it because I really wanted to hone my craft and improve my writing. Now, not everyone uses an outline, and that is completely fine. You can be super successful and not even know how to do an outline. And in all honesty, an outline isn't necessary to write a book. It just, what an outline does is it actually helps the writer with how much work they want to put into it, if that makes sense. So basically the difference is how much work you want to do on the upfront or how much work you want to do on the back end. So do you want to do all the work before you sit down to write, or do you want to do more revisions and editing later down the line? The two terms that come to mind is pantser versus plotter. And pantser basically is somebody who does something by the seat of their pants. And they kind of just go in blind. They let the story kind of just take its shape, all of that as the first draft. And that's completely fine. That's actually how I wrote Red Siren. That's typically how I write my first books and series. I really like that method because it lets me get to know my characters. If I don't know where a book is going, which typically with the first book I don't, it allows me to see where it's going, let the characters drive it, and see what their desires are, see what their personalities are, and it's super helpful to me. But with that being said, I have to do a lot more work on the back end, which I don't appreciate from my writing. If there's a plot hole, it's really discouraging if I stumble upon a plot hole middle of writing and I've written over 100 pages and now I'm like, that plot hole was placed on page 37 and I wrote the whole book with that plot hole, and now I have to go ahead and rewrite the entire book. I've actually done that before, and I was talking to another author and she actually admitted she had to rewrite an entire book about a month prior to it being published or something like that. I would personally want to know where my plot holes are prior to sitting down and writing than after and realizing it after the fact you wrote a whole manuscript and now you're panicking. Now, a plotter will do more upfront work. So they will have a detailed outline to the point of almost like you wrote the book already, but it's not in a manuscript form, if that makes sense. The method I use is from the book The Anatomy of Story by John Truby, and it changed my life. I think that is the best way on how to outline a book. It just blew my mind, and the examples he gives were super helpful. Typically with my outlining is I knew where it began, I knew in the middle something happens, and I knew where it ended, and so that was my little outline, and from there I kind of pantsed it. But from basically after my first book, I kind of know where the story is going. I know my characters already, so I don't need to kind of really get into their personality or really understand who they are. I already know that. So what I will typically do is I will literally sit down and I'll have John Truby's book with me, and I will sit down and I will literally plot every scene. Now I won't have fun little details like the grass was green and lush and smelled like it had just been mowed, and the ants climbed along a log. All the pretty things. I don't have that done until I actually write the manuscript, if that makes sense. So I have a skeleton, and then I go in and beef it up with muscles and skin and all that jazz. So I would typically have a stack of note cards, and I will number them in like the chapter or the scene, and I write down, okay, this needs to happen. So then this happens, and then this happens, this happens, this happens. And before I know it, I have the entire chapter done. And I know exactly where I'm going, and it actually helps me a lot with writing. And especially when I'm drafting, I say, okay, today's goal is to get to this point. And that's great because I already wrote it all out, so I can just go in and kind of have fun with it at this point. You know, what can I add? What can I take away? What else can happen in this scene? And so I'm hitting the main points, but I'm also having those fun side conversations and description and all the things readers love and enjoy. Alright guys, so that is going to be my video on how to plot as my Writing Wednesday video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys in my next one.